Hi, I'm Mark Mazzaferro, and it's time for another episode of The Works. And with us, as always, on The Works is Public Works Director Shawn Cunningham. Shawn, thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Mark. Happy to be here.
Good. Glad to see you again. We took a little break. We had Royce come in, and
How do you do?
he did a great job,
Good.
except right at the end, he kind of peeled back the curtains a little bit and mentioned that I was wearing jeans, or that I may have been wearing jeans instead of. And
Tell them what happens below the table.
yeah, exactly. But to no avail, he wouldn't let it go. So I denied it, and I'm denying it still.
Okay.
And today I have on a pair of slacks. So if anybody out there in TV land cares.
All right.
So it's got very little to do with Public Works.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
but now you're back, and
Yes.
and we're glad you're here. And of course, we have three topics that we're going to talk about. But we'll start with the current one that is on everyone's minds, and you certainly hear from the residents and businesses, as do I. And that's Jepson Parkway. How we doing out there?
Jepson Parkway. Is that still going on?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we started.
Jepson Parkway. Well, it's going well.
Uh-huh.
And yes, it is getting a lot of interest from the public, from what I understand. And we're getting. In fact, we had a business walk yesterday, and the area that I was assigned to, coincidentally or not, was Maris Industrial Park. And so I got to hear from some of the businesses out there how they've been impacted, and we understand that is an impact to
Right.
folks. It's a project that, as you know, we've been planning for a long time. Actually, at Solano Transportation Authority has been planning, and for probably 10 years now with from the original concept plan. And we understand that in order to get the benefits of the project, we got to go through the pain of the construction, and that impacts residents and businesses. But I will say, in this case, that this job, we first of all, Tykert Construction was awarded the contract, and they came in right away. First day, the construction contract was originally for just over 2 years. And that's what we anticipated it would take to complete the work. Tykert came in and they talked to us right at the first month of the first couple weeks of the job, and they had a proposal to come in and finish the job in just over a year. And so we wanted to listen, and that included, in order to do that, that was the closure of Leisure Town. So that inconvenienced a lot of people. We understand. There's still a segment of Leisure Town that is closed at New Alamo Creek Bridge. We're finishing up the bridge. It should be that should be complete and opened by the end of November. So we looked at all the different pros and cons, and the decision was made to endure a lot of pain for a short duration versus death by 1,000 cuts over the course of 28 months.
Right.
And it's worked out well. I mean, Tykert held up their end of the deal. They have met every milestone that they committed to. Like I say, they've opened Leisure Town Road except for there at New Alamo Creek Bridge. And we think that we'll be complete with construction out there certainly by summer of next year, if not sooner than that. And when I say complete with construction, I'm talking about we're going to wrap it and put the bow on it. It will be open to traffic, and as far as the traveling public, it will seem done well before that.
But the high gloss will take a little longer to.
By the time we finish up all the landscaping and signage and get everything, complete.
Right.
But as far as traffic flow, as you see driving out there now, it's already, for the most part, it's all paved. They're working on landscaping, median landscaping on a good portion of it. So if we can get the poles out of the middle of the road, that'll be something to overcome.
One thing at a time. And I live over in that area. I don't live in that neighborhood, but I do use Leisure Town Road a lot. And yeah, it's inconvenient. And for the people who live right there, it's extremely inconvenient. But again, it's not a forever project. This project will be done sooner rather than later. And we've apologized, and we've ask for people's patience, and we're going to apologize again and ask for their patience,
Right.
continued patience, as we get through this process. I mean, it can't be avoided.
Right.
You know?
And I think, yes, and we appreciate there's certain residents out there, certainly certain businesses that we've been dealing with very closely over the course of this, and those people know who they are, and we absolutely appreciate your patience and working with us. I think when we're done, I think Vacaville is going to be proud of what that is. It's going to be a nice roadway. Along the houses there along Stonegate and down near Alamo. We're building in, as you can see already. I mean, there's about a 40-foot linear parkway to create a buffer between the backyards and the new 4-lane roadway. That's all going to be landscaped, nice 10-foot bike and ped path. So I think it'll be and our first roundabout.
Yeah. Now they got that Elmira Road part done, right? That went pretty quick too. It seemed like it was close, and they were redoing the bridge there at Elmira and Leisure Town, right? And now it's open again, and it was like that. That struck me as going pretty fast. I mean, I'm no engineer, I'm no public works guy, but you tell me, was that a quick job, or was that right on time, or?
It went, for considering what had to be done there, it went very smoothly. And it's funny, one of the gentlemen, one of the businesses I spoke with yesterday, they said, yeah, I can't believe they had to close Leisure Town Elmira intersection. Well, we never did close the intersection. We had Elmira Road closed for a period. But what we did is we undergrounded the creek. We undergrounded about 300 feet of creek, 200 feet of creek right there, in order to widen the road. And so it was a significant amount of work in coordination with all of the overhead utility relocations. That took some real coordination. But really, even going back before that, I mean, in the design phase, that was a thorn. One, figuring what are we gonna do with the creek? How are we gonna pipe it? How are we gonna continue to handle that flow? And then dealing with the Corps of Engineers and Fish and Wildlife, and there's a lot that went into that little intersection right there.
Yeah, and that's an important point you bring up too, is how there's a lot of agencies, there's a lot of moving parts to this project. There's almost every project that's done, certainly in California, between environmental stuff and clearances and okays from Fish and Game and Corps Engineers, and pick an agency. At some level, somebody else is involved in a project before you can just go and do it.
You hit it on the head, Mark, and it's I know California. But I know that California is probably I'll say more vigilant than most other states as far as the environment. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it does. You bring up a good point. People ask us, why is it so expensive to build this project? One, during the design phase, and hats off to Public Works Engineering Services. They understand the law, they understand the regulations, and they work through it. But that portion of the preparation and design, they spend more time dealing with environmental regulations, permitting through the Corps, Fish and Wildlife, elderberry, all that. They spend more time dealing with that than physically putting the plans together to build the road. And then we spend money to mitigate.
Right.
For example, I mean, there were elderberry bushes in Alamo Creek and right there at Old Alamo Creek. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, to mitigate for elderberry bushes. So it's a big component.
And I wouldn't know an elderberry bush if there was one growing in my front yard, but I guess they're protected at some level, right?
The elderberry beetle is protected, and the elderberry beetles live in the bush, right?
Okay.
So it becomes a habitat. And there, every bike path project we do in Vacaville, there's elderberry bushes, and we pay. So, I mean, for all of the bike path projects that we've done in Vacaville, we've probably spent well over $1 million mitigating elderberry. That's not an exaggeration for elderberry bushes.
Man.
So, yeah.
I'm thinking of opening an elderberry bush store. $1 million. How bad can it be?
Well, that's, yeah, we're supposedly they're planting elderberry bushes somewhere. I don't know. I haven't seen them.
Oh man! All right. Well, the project is moving along, and if you want to find out more, we have a page on our website,
Right.
cityofvacaville.com/Jepson Parkway. It's right there on the home page as well. There's a link to it. So there's information out there. It's got maps. It's got diagrams. It's got links to other information. So all things considered, it's moving along pretty well, if you ask me.
I think it is. Yeah, we've been very fortunate. So.
Good. Okay. Well, let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about the weather, because it's October, and what
Rain
comes
is
next? November, December, the rainy season. What are we doing to get ready for the rainy season?
Well, yep, you're right. It's like clockwork. Rain is coming again, and hopefully we don't get 44 inches of rain again.
Yeah.
But certainly the public works maintenance crews, they've been out doing their normal. This is, we're well into getting working with Department of Corrections and getting their crews in to help us and starting to clear the creeks. A lot of which we're clearing up messes still from the last storm, from last year, last January and February. But so that's routine.
Right.
We're going in and taking care, making sure that the creeks are cleared. The other thing, if you remember last year with the Green Tree Golf Course closing, and the flooding issues that have plagued the Leisure Town area, which I think last year we worked with Sire to implement some certain improvements at the Green Tree Golf Course, which drains the Leisure Town subdivision drains through the golf course.
Oh, okay.
It was a good idea when they built the golf course, not a great idea now. But a lot of what we did last year in preparation worked. There was, even with 44 inches of rain, we didn't have a ton of flooding. We only had a few instances where we had flooding in Leisure Town. This summer, we've gone in and done even more. And if you go along Leisure Town Road, you can see that ditch along Green Tree. Looks like the Panama Canal right now.
Right, right.
You give some people an excavator and clearance to go ahead and
off
end
they
up
go.
with a big ditch. And
Beautiful.
so I think now that those ponds are gonna, they're gonna drain very well. We're doing some work now with Sire to the area over by Yellowstone, so that that's where we had the flooding last year. So we're trying to open that up.
Good.
And take care of that. Some of the, we had a lot of damage. We had some slides last year that occurred in the creeks. We've taken care of several of those along Alamo Creek. A couple of them on Ulatis Creek, we're still waiting for clearance. We're working through FEMA on that, so we have to get clearance in order so that we don't jeopardize the funding. But some of the critical ones that were impacting property, we've already taken care of.
And that's something else, because you talk about delays or waiting. When it's raining, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. And when it's not raining, it's like, okay, what's the rush? And clearly you want to be ready for the next rainy season. But take the tree over there on Arequipa Court, right? We finally got in there. We were able to, people won't know if we were going to fix that right now when it happened. And that's not possible. It's dangerous to go in there. Obviously, it's not firm. There's issues with the soil in the creek bed and other things. But we finally were able to get in that. Now, I'm not saying that's the case in Arequipa Court, but again, we're back to there's only certain times that you can go into these creeks and do repairs, and that impacts the time frame of getting things fixed, right?
Right, and that the tree at Arequipa, that was an organized effort to get that tree out of there. I mean, when you have a tree that large and the way it fell, and you don't know. The problem with that is you don't really know how that tree's loaded.
Yeah.
So I mean, you start cutting on it, and that thing decides to spring and move. So it took some planning to figure out how to get that out of there. I don't know if I think you did get some pictures
that was
of the crane that we.
Yeah, that tree was huge in the first place, and then cranes and guys on cranes dropping in with saws, and it was quite the operation.
An operation,
Yeah.
and we still need to get the bridge out of there. That bridge is not salvageable, obviously. It's so that'll be our next. But it's a matter of triaging and prioritizing.
Right.
But even with the creek damage, going back to what we said earlier with being in California, and a lot of residents we talked to, they said, why isn't this an emergency? Why can't I just go, you guys should just come in here and fix it? Well, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
I mean, we still have to go, the Corps of Engineers doesn't consider it an emergency. So we still have to go through the permitting and all that. And then in the case of Marbella Court, for example, that had to be designed. We can't just go in there and start throwing money at it. We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing and that it's going to last. So it's a challenge.
Yeah. So while we're on the subject of storm preparation and flooding, let's talk about the Alamo Creek Detention Basin. What's going on with that?
Let's.
I know it's your favorite subject, one of many, actually.
Yeah, right. It's right with Jepson, right there. So the Alamo Creek Detention Basin is, as you know, we've had our trials and tribulations on there. That was actually dates back to the 05-06 storms where we received FEMA grant money to construct that basin. And then we ran into issues with the cultural resources that we found there, and after a long sad story, FEMA ended up backing out of that. They removed their support, meaning their money, and they left. So it remains a priority, certainly for Public Works, but also for the council and the mayor. They realize that is the single project that will provide the most benefit. In fact, I'd said if that basin was there during these last storms when we flooded the streets, thank goodness no houses, but we flooded streets in Southwood, probably wouldn't have happened.
Right.
And so, it's an important project, and the city has made the decision to pretty much go it alone. And we're in the process now of working with the Corps of Engineers to figure out, when I keep saying the Corps, the United States Corps of Engineers. So any waters of the U.S., which is Alamo Creek, they control that.
Sure.
It's theirs. So we're working with them to figure out what do we need to do to get moved through the process. The Yochadehi, they're back involved, and we're working with them. They are being obstinate. I mean, they still are very opposed to the project. They feel it is a sacred site, and so we're trying to work with them and work through that process. And at the same time, we're looking for funding. So we still have a $3 million grant from the State Department of Water Resources on the project. We're trying to work with SQA to see if they want to partner with us. That's the Solano County Water Agency, who deal with flood control in the county. And they've already partnered with us on the project, but we need more partnership, i.e. more money.
I was going to say translation, cash.
But so that's what I can say. The city still plans to build that, and it's a priority. Are we going to be successful? We'll find out. I'd say within the course of a year, we will know. I mean, we've got an engineer assigned to it. He's working very hard, very diligently, and we are going to know, if we're going to hit a wall or not.
Well, it's certainly not for lack of trying that the Alamo Detention Basin has been built yet. So we've been working on that almost since I started working here. I started in 06, which was the year after the 05-06 debacle. I've seen countless presentations at council meetings and planning commission by us, by SQA, by other agencies talking about here are ways to fix this. We've built some detention basins, but as you said, the one that would really do the most is the one that's the toughest.
Right. I mean that basin is going to be somewhere between 500, 600, 700 acre feet of water. So if you figure what does that mean? If you took say 500 acres, if you could picture 500 acres and you put a foot of water across that, that's how much water that will hold. So that's what I say when we saw street flooding, three different occasions this winter in Southwood, probably would have been mitigated if we could pull that water off upstream before it ever gets into Vacaville. So,
yeah, all things considered, though, last winter we were pretty lucky.
We were lucky.
Again, it was a lot of rain, but it was spread out enough that we were able to we didn't see the kind of flooding we saw in 05, 06.
Right, and it was, and a lot of that too. I attribute to Public Works maintenance crews. They you know, they did their homework, and you know, they get, and just like they're doing this year. They know where the hot spots are. They know what needs to be taken care of, and they did. And then during the storm, as you know, you covered a lot of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're out there standing in the
you
rain.
know,
It's
hanging
fun.
off a bridge, trying to get trees off of the bridge and everything else. So it was a lot of work, but we were lucky.
And if there, yeah, we were, but there nothing demonstrates the power of nature than watching the water rise to the top of a bridge and bringing tons of debris with it, and just it puts a little bit of fear in you in terms of how helpless you really are to stop this. You know, it's like it's powerful.
I saw back to Marbella Court. I went back in the backyard of this gentleman whose house was impacted by the slide there, and I was standing there, and there's a cottonwood tree down there. It's got to have a 30-inch base on it, and I don't know how tall this tree was. This tree's, you know, it's 100 feet tall, and it's laying down there in the bottom of the creek. That thing came down, came down Alamo Creek from somewhere. Right?
Yeah, right. Where'd that come
Who knows how
from?
far it came down? So yeah, when you say the power of, of those storms, it's incredible. We didn't have more damage.
Right,
really.
right. Like I said, we were lucky. We were very fortunate. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground, but there's always a lot going on in your department, is there?
It's busy. Yeah, we have a lot going on always.
Yeah,
You know, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
you know, it's
right.
a good. We've got a lot of capital projects. We're doing. You know, we're thankful the council was able to appropriate quite a bit of money this year for facility upgrades, which are much needed. During the downturn, a lot of that just couldn't happen. Yeah,
They're
you know,
needed.
maybe a new studio. I don't know.
How about a fumigated studio would be nice?
Or an air freshener, I don't
know. Baby steps, okay, let's not go crazy.
But so yeah, that's, you know, and the council, rightfully so, they give us money, they expect to see it turned around.
Right,
so we're
right.
busy, maintenance is busy, and it's all good.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk to you next episode. Let's plan on talking about fleet maintenance, because I think that's a part of your job and that the city does that it's a huge part of public works and a huge part of keeping the city operating that people take for granted almost. So
yeah, that would be interesting. You know, it's funny, Mark. I had a discussion with my wife this morning. As you know, we've had some issues with garbage service in the downtown, and so I was talking to my wife about that this morning, and she said, "Why in the world are you worried about garbage service?" And I said, "Well, that's our contract. Public Works handles the contract for garbage service." She said, "You do?" And so that would be a good discussion for the works. Kind of, what are all the quirky things?
Yeah,
that
the
Public
oddball
Works
stuff
deals
that you got to deal with. Yeah. Well, I've had conversations like that with my wife too. She says, "You do that?"
We do
Don't
it all.
worry about it, honey. All right. Well, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me,
Shawn. Appreciate your time, and thank you for watching this episode of The Works. We'll see you next time.